What is going on, everybody? We are here. I guess we call this week the late night special, right? It's got a ring to it. Here
Late
with
night
Billy
special.
and
I like it.
Faz here for Goat Talk. We're gonna have a short episode for you guys tonight. I don't know why you're throwing up peace signs there, Faz, because it's not gonna be peaceful tonight, as we got to experience the Jets lose the way any a Jets team could lose. But we will talk about that a little bit later. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you're here. Like I said, it's going to be a short episode tonight. We have been, as we kind of referenced last week, we have been very swamped with stuff right now. We have finals starting next week, and just like for me personally, editing my short film and stuff like that, it's just been very time consuming, and all students can relate to that. So we'll be back in full stride probably after finals, doing full episodes, normal times. So I apologize for all of the confusion and the lack of showtime, I guess is the way to put it. Billy and Faz, you got anything to update us on? How you guys doing?
It's been busy. It's been
Uh,
busy. I'm stressed. That's all.
Tell me about it, man. It's definitely a busy time of the year. I do actually have a Hawk TV update, though. We did announce that we are officially moving forward with doing Rock and Raise next semester, either in person or online, however it can be. We're making it work. And we announced our producers, so congrats to Sean, who's our executive here, and then our four wonderful associates, Ben, Anthony, Erin, and Kristen. Yeah, you guys all did great, and looking forward to putting together a great show with a great team. And yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that something about the Jets losing just brings me so much joy. I don't even have anything against them.
There it is. There it is. Maybe somehow as executive for Rock and Raise this year, maybe I can work the
A
Jets
Jets
being
themed
so
show.
awful into the show. Maybe I could do a package with like local Jets fans, and it's just like a very sad documentary.
Do you like think you're funny? Like I
I
I
think
mean,
he
I,
knows.
I
we were
think
having
I'm
a
funny.
good
Billy, do
night.
you think I'm
We were
funny?
talking today.
I think you're
Today
pretty
was
funny.
supposed to be a great day. Like new Star Wars got announced, new Marvel got announced.
This
Hayden
is a nice
Christensen's
Star
coming
Wars
back as
show. This
Darth
is the
Vader.
sports show.
But
If you want a positive Star
so
Wars vibe, come on Tuesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. on WMCX, 88.9
I was
Don't
FM,
just
worry,
Mount
gonna
man.
give the,
University's
I was
home
just gonna give
college
the
radio
plug for
station.
you. See, that was me being a good friend and trying to set up the Star Wars show for you. You're just coming at me because my football team lost on a Hail Mary
I
that
got
we
to watch
decided
it
to blitz.
live. Was on camera with Faz when this happened, and it was the
Bruh.
greatest thing that happened. I might have lost
I don't
all
know
my
why they
fantasy leagues,
blitzed.
but the fact that I got to see that made my week.
But we got like, why blitz? Why blitz on a Hail Mary? I don't know. Greg
I
Williams got fired.
did I not say it live? Remember we were watching it live? I was like, why are they blitzing on a Hail Mary?
I was
Whatever.
confused, but I was very wrapped up in the moment. I didn't know what to do. But it
Whatever.
was. I've never seen anything like that before.
Talking about not seeing anything really like that before. What about this Russell Westbrook trade, guys? What do we think? Who won? Who lost? Did either team win?
Faz, I'll let you start.
Oh, I was gonna let you start. All right. So here's my thing with the Russell Westbrook trade. Now that I've had some time for it to settle in, I feel like th- this is tough because if James Harden stays, I think the Rockets win that deal. I think a healthy John Wall's a better fit. They completely revamped that roster, getting DeMarcus Cousins, Christian Wood, a couple of other smaller pieces that they've put together on that team. So I think they've done a good job of rebuilding that roster and getting Harden a point guard that theoretically, if healthy, fits better with him. But the health concerns with John Wall really make me nervous. And Russell Westbrook thrives really well in a situation where he's not the dominant ball handler. And I think Bradley Beal, more so than James Harden, is that type of player that can come off the ball more. I mean, he played with John Wall and played incredibly well. So we've seen how he can play like that before. James Harden, on the other hand, has to be the dominant player in the backcourt. So that was why that duo didn't really work. I do really think that Russell Westbrook can bring Washington to the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to be anything special, but they could be a 6, 7, 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. They'll be a playoff team. They won't be anything special, but I will get to this eventually. But I think Harden's out the door. So just because of that, taking on John Wall's contract, I think the Wizards win this trade. But essentially, they're kind of swapping the same player. They're swapping two guys who are on tremendous contracts that no team wants that are kind of sort of toxic players a little bit that have passed their prime windows and aren't what they used to be. So they're getting very similar players in terms of the situations that both of those guys are in. But just because of the possibility that James Harden's leaving, and I feel like they could have gotten a little bit more draft collateral for Russell Westbrook or some younger assets, I think the Wizards win this trade. And I actually think it's going to pay off for them with a playoff berth.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. and I do tend to agree with you on most stuff. But I do think that when you think about it and you look at it, I think the Wizards did win the trade for the most part. Like outside of other things, I think first of all, you have a Rockets team that generally just doesn't want to play there anymore with their star player wanting to leave, and then even with the acquisition of John Wall, James Harden isn't going to want to stay there. And then I think that most of the reason that people are against the idea of having Russell Westbrook is that one, he can't shoot threes, as pointed out by Eddie and Luca in chat. Not a fan, Westbrook. But
Yeah.
I think that when you have a player like Bradley Beal, who is a primary shooter, and you have a ball dominant guy like Russ, it might lead to some conflict, but it could lead to them working really well together. And then you also have the fact that a lot of the reason that people lean towards the Rockets having won in this scenario is that Russell Westbrook gets a reputation of being a poor team player, and then you get conflicting reports from different people he's played with on whether or not that's true. So whether or not what team won, that depends on how you view that narrative about Russell Westbrook. But I do think that they ultimately won it because of the fact that he has shown that he has success in the league before, and he's made playoff runs before, as opposed to a guy like John Wall, who hasn't necessarily had that kind of power with a team before, and a Rockets team that is losing the majority of their star power right now. So ultimately, the Wizards turn out better for this. I don't think either team becomes a playoff caliber team like the Rockets have been in the past, or the Wizards are trying to be, but either way, it's not good for either side.
I mean, I agree. I feel like it's hard to pick a winner here because you have on one case Russell Westbrook, who's getting older in this league and becoming what Mike referenced as a toxic player almost. And then on the other side, I think you have John Wall, who's been hurt for 2 seasons now, and he's coming off an Achilles injury, an injury that most guys don't even come back from. That's most times, or not most times, but sometimes a career-ending injury. And for someone like John Wall, who relies so much on his quickness to get to the hoop, and not as so much as his shooting, I'm concerned about John Wall and the Rockets because, prime example, I know medicine's taken a long stride in the right direction. But if you look at Isaiah Thomas back with the Pistons back in the day, after his Achilles injury, he was not the same player at all. And he was a player that really relied on his quickness and his speed and his ability to cut fast in order to be an efficient guard. Now for John Wall, there's a chance he can step up and be a better shooter, right? But it's more likely than not that John Wall's not going to ever be what he once was. I'd say it's a safe bet, and that's why it's hard for me to pick a winner also because the Rockets are also getting a first-round pick. So I almost want to lean towards their side. So asking me the question on who the winner is to me is a complicated question because who's the winner in the short term? The Wizards 100%. Who's the winner in the long term? Well, depending on how Westbrook does in Washington, maybe the Rockets. I could see this going either way. Maybe John Wall does come back and he's throwing up 15, 16 points a night. And that's all you need when you got James Harden back there. Maybe John Wall, really works on his shooting and really works on his defense and he's able, to change his game. Who knows? But the Achilles injury always worries me. I mean, even Kobe wasn't really the same after his Achilles injury. And Wall's all athleticism. That was his entire game. It's kind of like Derrick Rose as well, where he was so dependent on that burst, on that vertical, on that athleticism, sharp cutting, and then that injury changed it all. I mean, I know you're saying a lot of guys get injured and a lot of guys come back fine. It's different with John Wall in comparison to like Klay Thompson. If Klay Thompson tearing his ACL, Klay Thompson's a spot-up shooter. He's going to get to his spot, he's going to shoot. He's not really going to do what John Wall and Derrick Rose did when they were in their young careers, which is get around the defender with a quick move, get high in the air, and make an acrobatic finish at the rim. That's not how Klay Thompson plays. Klay Thompson doesn't need to make those sharp cuts to be an effective player. I mean, we've seen him score 47 points in a quarter or something like that, and taking 3 dribbles. So a guy like Klay Thompson, I don't worry about, but a guy like John Wall, I do worry about.
I will say one thing for John Wall though. So coming off an injury, he may not have the same burst. He may not be able to drive as effectively. But when the primary focus of the Rockets is James Harden, and a lot of the reason they were successful before Russell Westbrook was James Harden being the primary shooter, and the reasons that didn't work being that they're both ball dominant guards. If John Wall can capitalize on his abilities as a distributor and focus on this role of being a point guard more as someone like Rajon Rondo. Maybe he could recover from that injury in a different way. He would come out a different player, essentially, and he wouldn't be the same as effective as a scorer, and he wouldn't be the same player we remember him as. But if he could come out as a better assist man, a better true point guard in the classic sense of it, then it might actually work out better for the Rockets, especially if under the circumstance that Boogie Cousins comes back and succeeds and plays effectively. I don't think he will, but there are some circumstances there that could lead to having John Wall as a true point guard being a little bit more beneficial to that team than having Russell Westbrook continue to play in that role. So again, I would like to see him come back from the injury like that, but I don't know if there's any way you could confidently bet on him doing that.
I also really think the winner of the trade in part is going to, have a factor in what happens with, as I said before, James Harden, because while John Wall in theory could possibly be the better player, they get the first round pick. If James Harden leaves, then how different is Westbrook's situation in Washington than Wall's in Houston? It's, another point guard who still has 3 years, $120+ million left on their contract, and they're rotting away on a fringe playoff team, maybe. So a lot of it depends on what happens with James Harden, I think. So that's a storyline that we've been watching, which is going to be really interesting to see how that turns out. But, I think it depends. It really depends on the James Harden's future in Houston.
There's definitely a lot of question marks in Houston right now, and I guess one positive you can see is that the Kentucky boys are back together. John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins played college ball together.
Yeah, I was happy to see that.
We'll see how that works out. But
that.
I mean, Wall, Cousins, if Harden's staying, new coach now for the Rockets, just a ton of question marks and already in a tough Western competition. Whereas the Wizards are in the East, and like you said, I would put the Wizards in the playoff spot now. Even with two ball dominant guards, I still think they have enough talent to make the East playoffs. So if you guys have any final basketball comments about anything basketball related, now's the time before we shift over to football.
Just really quickly, I wanted to mention this because they released the betting odds for where Harden would go, and one of the top, I think it's the third team in the betting odds is the Toronto Raptors, which I feel like they're always a dark horse in trade talks.
I saw the
I don't
Heat
know
today
what
too.
that is. This is what I was getting to before we move on to a different sport. Multiple executives around the league are saying that wherever Harden ends up is going to come down to whether the Heat want to trade Tyler Hero or the Sixers want to trade Ben Simmons. Whichever one of the two gets offered first is essentially where Harden's going to go, because both teams, the Heat said they won't trade Hero, the Sixers said they won't trade Simmons. If I'm Miami, I'm dumb for that. I'm taking Harden in a heartbeat. But
I would take Harden for Hero. I would.
Yeah, well, it would probably be more than that, but we'll monitor that and see what happens. Maybe
Who
we'll come
would
back
you
from break and he'll
rather have? Let me ask you. Would you rather have Tyler Hero or Ben Simmons?
Okay, so I think I know what you're asking me. I know what you're asking me, but what I'm saying is
if you're the Rockets, who would you rather have, Tyler Hero or Ben Simmons?
If I'm the Rockets, I'd rather have Ben Simmons, but I feel like the Sixers won't trade him. I think a trade with the Heat is more likely, because as an NBA executive, I'd rather have Ben Simmons than Tyler Hero. So I think Hero is the more likely of the two to get traded. Also because I feel like Ben Simmons has become such a part of Philly's future plans, whereas Tyler Hero is a younger guy, but the rest of that roster is kind of more of in a win now mode. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I would rather have Ben Simmons, but I mean, if the best trade offer is going to come from a package surrounded around like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and a bunch of draft picks, then I'm taking that.
I'd rather have Hero. I don't know how you feel, Billy.
Really?
If I'm the Rockets, I'd rather have Simmons. In general, as a player, I'd rather have Hero. I think Hero is more of an effective scorer, and I think that that's more beneficial to a team. And I also think that Hero's shown in the short time that he's been in the league an ability to develop parts of his game, whereas Simmons has been trying to develop a three for about how long has he been in the NBA, and he hasn't done it effectively. So
4 years.
Yeah, so 4 years of him trying to do that and then winning a Rookie of the Year in his second year. So I don't know how I feel about Ben Simmons continuing on in the league. Personally, if I was the Sixers and I had to choose between trading Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, this is a debate I had with my friends a little while ago. I would trade Ben Simmons because I think Joel Embiid is more of a piece to build around. But I think Tyler Hero's going to be a better player long term. I would trade for him in general, but if I'm the Rockets, James Harden is ball dominant, and if I want to keep him, I'm getting him someone who could get him the ball in any scenario, and that's Ben Simmons.
I feel the opposite. I think the Rockets would be better off with Tyler Hero and whatever package else comes with Miami's offer. Because for
I think
me,
Miami offers a better package.
but Ben Simmons has shown that yeah, he's a good player, but I feel like he's hit his ceiling. I don't think he gets better than he is right now, Ben Simmons. Tyler
Yeah.
Hero, on the other hand, is on the up. So I'm taking the odds because I'm already throwing odds on John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. So why not take another risk here with Tyler Hero, who could be,
Another Kentucky
who
guy.
I think will be better than Ben Simmons in the next 2 to 3 years because he's showing growth, not like Ben Simmons has. So that's why I take Hero over Simmons. I know that's probably a hot take, and you two don't agree with me. I'm
No,
curious what chat thinks too, but
I totally see where you're coming from on that, and I don't disagree. I think Tyler Hero is going to be a premier player in the NBA in the next couple of years. But I think that as far as distributors go right now, and people who can get like assists effectively and like lead a team in the stretch, and also has that size to do it and work with the Rockets team that is generally smaller, Ben Simmons might be a better fit for that because Tyler Hero is kind of a general guard size, but Ben Simmons is built like a power forward. So like
Yeah.
I think that comes into a factor when you play with a Rockets team that probably has one legitimate center on their roster. Like not very many big men. I think that's something that they're taking into consideration because small ball clearly hasn't worked for them in recent years, and they're going to probably shift away from that with their new coaching schemes. So personally, I think that the current Rockets are going to be doing that if they're going to pursue one of those guys. I don't know if they will, but that's my 2 cents on that.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I do know ESPN ranked Ben Simmons as the 16th best player in the league, which Sean, I'm sure you incredibly disagree with that.
I don't agree with that.
To put the salt in the wound, number 17 was Devin Booker. So in ESPN's eyes, Ben
What?
Simmons is a better basketball player than Devin Booker.
I don't like either of them, so.
Well,
I probably like Ben Simmons better than I like Devin Booker.
Is it 18 RJ Barrett?
Okay, I'll put it in perspective for you. Who would you rather have as a point guard, Kyrie Irving or Ben Simmons?
Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving is number 25.
Even though Irving's a cancer of a teammate right now, I'd still probably take Kyrie.
Yeah, like I mean Kyrie's decorated for sure, but like I think that as far as like actual skill on the ball and the ability to like make your team win, Kyrie Irving on the court is the guy as far as point guards go right now when he's healthy.
All right,
But, like,
let's
Yeah.
say we can shift over to football now. We saw probably the biggest upset of the NFL so far this week with Pittsburgh. I didn't even gonna say the Jets. Don't put your head down. I was gonna say
No, I was scratching my neck. I didn't get there
Save
yet.
it up at the end.
the Washington football team beating the undefeated no more Pittsburgh Steelers. Guys, thoughts on the game?
I called it. That's all I'm going to
You
say.
did.
I
You
called
did.
it. I have one thing to say about this game. It's the only comment I'll make. Alex Smith has to be comeback player of the year.
Mhm.
What he has done since coming back, forget the fact that he's making a really bad team actually kind of decent and potentially winning the division. Potentially. I think it might be the Giants.
They're not
but
really a bad
they're
team
not-
though. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
They're not. No, they're not. They're not.
they got the best, one of the
But-
best defenses in the league.
They do have a good defense, but look at what he has done, especially with the gruesome injury that he suffered. Went from possibly never being able to walk again to coming back and doing what he's doing now and actually making Washington a decent team. I think Pittsburgh's a little overrated. Regardless of that, they're 11-0. They took down one of the best teams in the NFL, which not only one of the best teams in the NFL, he did that against one of the top 3 ranked defenses in the league. I don't know what this means for Pittsburgh. I think they're in for an interesting next couple of weeks, but I still think they're one of the better teams. But I think this puts Washington ahead in that division, not only record-wise, which is obviously the case, but I think this might be beating the Steelers is going to be a huge momentum shift for them going into the last couple of weeks of the season. Enough so that they might be able to steal that division.
I totally agree. I think that first of all, the narrative of Alex Smith going from having a Joe Theismann-esque injury on the same day, like X years later, to then coming back and going to Pittsburgh to play an undefeated Steelers team when his team is in a win now, we have to win games to win the division mode, and then to start and beat that team without having to have any sort of illegitimacy happen, like any sort of questioning from fans or referee problems. That's just really impressive. I know that there's been some that always happens in football, but like for it to like not boil down to something like that, and for it to just be a legitimate win for the Washington football team, and to have their star players come out and do things that are great. That's a great story for Alex Smith. But I also think that I don't know if it shows that the Steelers are the weak team that people perceive them to be. I think that I've been talking to my friend about this a lot because he's a Steelers fan. But the main thing is that every year there's one team that has to play the easiest schedule. The Steelers have that this year. I think that that's pretty fair to say, is that the Steelers have had a relatively easy schedule on paper and in games. That being said, every team gets that schedule. One team gets that schedule every year. And for them to be 11-1 right now with the schedule is still pretty impressive. I still think they're a team to be reckoned with going into the playoffs, but I think losing to the Washington football team is a bit of a tarnish on your record. And I think that when it boils down to it, the Kansas City Chiefs still prove to be a better football team going into the playoffs. And it shows that the Steelers do bleed this year, and they're not exactly the team that people were afraid of a couple of weeks ago before they started being like made fun of by the public for this. But I do think that I hope that the Steelers could bounce back. I'd like to see them make a playoff run again, because I haven't seen that in a while, and they still have a really great defense. If their offense can start producing at a higher level, then I still think the Steelers have a legitimate shot at making a playoff run. So I don't think it's that deep of a cut for the Steelers.
I think it's fair to say the Steelers are still a top 5 team in the league as of right now,
Right.
but they've gotten squeaked by some pretty bad teams so far. And I think this Washington team, we were talking about it last week, how this was either going to be a Washington win or a Pittsburgh win by 3 points. I said on the final drive they were going to win on a BS flag. Thank God that didn't happen. Happy to see Washington win. Even as an NFC East fan, I don't really like the Steelers, so I'm happy to see Washington win. But I love Alex Smith. I love Ron Rivera, and I really like Antonio Gibson in their backfield. They got a really nice team. Terry McLaurin, I think, is one of the most underrated receivers in the league right now. And I think they have a decent team. And as many jokes you want to make about the NFC East, you have the Giants in first place, who beat the Seattle with a backup quarterback. And then you have Washington beating Pittsburgh in second place, 1 game out of a wild card, guys. There could be 2 teams in the NFC East making the playoffs after all the jokes that were cracked in the beginning of the year.
Which is crazy, because they'll potentially both be under 500, which is crazy. But I mean, you just said it, what the Giants did with Seattle, and obviously what we just saw Washington do with Pittsburgh. They're a joke of a division. Like I won't, as of right now, like I'm not going to change that. But they've beaten some good teams this season, and although it's they're not really that talented by their record, that's a tight division. Like you have the Giants, who obviously lead the division right now. Washington's right there. And I know Philly's been a disaster. They're getting a new quarterback in Jalen Hurts, but they're really not too far behind in that division hunt either. Like if one of the Giants or Washington slips and loses like 2 games in a row and Philly goes on a little run, Philly could jump one of those 2 teams. So people, not, as you said, people knock that division a lot, but they've beaten 2 very good teams, and that division is close. Like, I don't think people realize how close that division actually is. Maybe it's because people don't care about them because they're a bunch of sub 500 teams, but that's a close division battle. And it's going to be really interesting to see what goes down over the next couple of weeks, especially with Philly getting a new quarterback in Jalen Hurts.
My thing, too, is like with Washington, especially, and with the Giants a little bit, Washington has a top 3 defense right now. A top 3 defense. So, to me, they could beat any team in the NFL right now. That's just how it is, especially in the playoffs. It's 1 game in the playoffs. If you have a really good defense, you can upset a lot of teams. And the Giants have debatably a top 10, top 15 defense this year. So that's why these 2, talked about it last week, why I think these 2 are going to be the ones fighting for the division, because their defenses are able to carry them through these games. And this week for both teams was prime examples. Colt McCoy just managed the game. That's how they beat the Seahawks, and the defense really stepped up against what is a prolific offense with Seattle. In Seattle, too. And then Washington goes and beats an undefeated Pittsburgh team with a prolific offense and a fading defense in Pittsburgh. So you can't overlook really good defensive teams, because they're always bound to upset these teams. Defense usually wins over a better offense, as we've seen the past couple of Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's sorry, you caught me off guard with that one. It didn't sound like you were ending your sentence right there. But I do think that both of these teams that played this week, both Washington and Pittsburgh, are like very defensively strong teams, and I think that they are both poised for if Washington can pull it off, they might be able to win a game or two in the playoffs. I don't know if they would be able to make a serious run, but I could see them winning a game. And I think that the Steelers will probably continue to make a run. I think that they will be contenders for the Super Bowl. If not, they're going to be playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I think that that's a fair assumption to be making right now. But the NFC is a little bit harder to decipher. So when you have an NFC East division that's as strong on defense as it is with the football team and the Giants leading it, then it's really hard to determine who you think is going to come out of that. And I do think I would give the edge to the Giants. That's not just because Sean's my friend. It's because I genuinely think that the Giants had a very impressive win over a really strong Seahawks team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And for their defense to be able to show out against wide receivers who have so clearly shown their dominance in football over the course of the year shows that they can continue to win. And if they could do that and then allow Daniel Jones to continue to build his confidence through that and allow him to have less pressure with that defense, then maybe he would continue to grow into a better player and we wouldn't have to worry about moving on to a new quarterback this early on in his career, because I would like to see Daniel Jones succeed and at least have him be the second best quarterback in New York.
Wait, what did you
Josh
say?
Allen, the second best quarterback in New York. Josh Allen's going to be the best quarterback in New York for a while. You're going to have to deal with it.
Whew.
Buffalo, New York, dude.
Oh,
Buffalo
I
is
thought
in
you
New
were
York.
I thought you were gonna say Sam Darnold.
No,
No.
he's the best quarterback in New Jersey.
I was about to look at that door
He's
and
the
walk
only
out.
quarterback in New
That was gonna happen. I'm like, I can't even
Sam
talk because
Darnold
I
is
thought
the
that's what
best
you were
quarterback
talking.
in the state of New Jersey. The New York
Shut
Jets
up.
are gonna get the
This
number
is-
Shut
one
up.
pick.
I mean,
They're
Sean,
gonna
this
trade.
is a pretty good
They're gonna
segue.
trade down. They're gonna trade down from the number one pick because Sam Darnold is the guy, and they're not gonna take Trevor Lawrence.
And they're gonna
They're
keep Adam Gase, and you guys aren't gonna win another game next year.
They're going to
They'll
go
go
Maybe you'll
0-30
maybe
for us.
hey, wait. Maybe the new defensive coordinator will also blitz on a Hail Mary. Wow. Maybe Henry Ruggs will blow by you again and win a game-winning touchdown. You had the game right here in your freaking hand, right here,
Listen,
and you just threw it away.
You know what? You know what's in our freaking hand? The number one overall pick that we are going to use as trade bait to get.
You're
a
just as
star
bad as them. You're just
player.
as bad as them.
You're
Let
going to
me-
trade for a kicker. Like-
No, excuse me. Let me lay out the scenario for you. Jets
Please
go
do.
0-16. Number one pick.
Again,
But
or this year.
Sam Darnold plays phenomenal throughout the rest of the year.
He
did
can't
against
he
the Raiders.
can't play phenomenal if you don't win a game. That you
But-
can't get
but you
that.
can.
That's not possible.
But you can.
No, you can't.
But you can.
No, you
but you
can't. Billy, freaking say something
hold
right
on,
now.
hold on.
No, I need to
You
let him
can't
go.
play phenomenal
now
at
you're-
quarterback
now
if
you're
you're not winning a game.
No. Now you're talking stupid. So you're gonna tell me never
I'm
in the
talking
history
stupid.
And no.
You might as well turn around and be doing the show through your butt right now because you're talking crap.
You're gonna tell me never in the history of professional sports has a sport player had a phenomenal game but lost.
Lost, not the entire season. Name me a phenomenal season at quarterback when the team didn't win a game the entire season.
He's got
Hear
you
me
there,
out.
buddy. Like, if you
I
have a
am hearing you
phenomenal
out,
game
and
every
it's making
week,
my
you're
freaking
probably
ears
gonna
bleed.
Okay, so let me explain myself for a moment. Sam Darnold plays well enough to keep his starting job. The Jets get the number one overall pick. They package that pick down to a team that wants Trevor Lawrence, maybe the Vikings. I don't know. They trade up. We get a nice package of draft picks, a nice defensive player or two. New York gets a nice little draft collateral for Trevor Lawrence. You go into the offseason, we get a wide receiver in Allen Robinson.
You guys should
Doug
get Allen
Peterson
Robinson, I
becomes our
agree
new
there.
coach. We should get Allen
wish.
Robinson.
You
We
wish
get a
Doug will
we
go
get
there.
I do wish. I want him really badly. I think he's the next Brandon Marshall. We go into next season,
No, I said, never mind. Keep going.
10-6 wild card. We lose in the wild card. We lose in the wild card. And then the following year, we're back in the NFC Championship. Yeah, walk out.
I can't believe you just said that the Jets are going to go 10-6 after it. It's an 0-16 year. So what's the next jump? 18-0?
I hope so.
So what do we do with that, Sean? I think Sean could probably still hear us. I think he's got that Bluetooth
He can still
headset.
hear us. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep talking about how Sam Darnold will remain the starting quarterback for the New York Jets.
You
Why
must
do-
be high as a freaking kite if you're gonna sit here and talk about Sam Darnold like he's a freaking future Hall of Famer, and then try to tell me the Jets are gonna win double-digit games by the time I freaking die, because it's not gonna happen,
9-7.
okay? It's not
9-7.
gonna happen.
9-7.
I will
guarantee.
be
I'm
dead
just a little
by the
annoyed
time the
that
Jets
you-
win the
that you-
Super Bowl. I will be freaking 6 feet under by the time Sam Darnold wins a playoff game.
But you know what?
It'll be so much
I-
funnier now if it happens next year.
I won't be, because I'm immortal. I can never die. My soul cannot leave my body until the Jets win a Super Bowl. And you
like
know what
this
I'm going to
show's
do when they
getting a
win a
little
Super
long.
Bowl, Sean? I'm going to go up to your little tombstone, and I'm going to take a Sam Darnold jersey and wrap your tombstone in a Sam Darnold jersey.
I will haunt you for the rest of your
And then
life.
you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run around the graveyard like this with the jet plane, like this, all around. I'm going to put a Sam Darnold jersey on your tombstone, and I'm going to say, boom.
He
You like that?
Just boom. Just boom.
I'm not concerned because it's not gonna happen.
It is going to happen.
You know what is immortal? The internet. And this take of yours isn't going anywhere. Just like all of your
What's my
takes about the
take?
Jets.
My take is that Sam Darnold will remain the quarterback into next season because he will play well enough this season.
You
to
keep
keep this
changing
job.
it. It was phenomenal. I have it recorded. Like,
Okay. You know what? No, I'll say it. He's going to play phenomenal.
Stop!
For what he
No,
has
he's
around him,
not.
he's going to play phenomenal.
no, he's not.
Okay, let me ask you this. Is the loss against the Raiders his fault?
I mean, partially,
Exactly.
not fully, though.
How's it partially his fault?
He could have put his team in a better position to not even be in that position.
Clock management issues.
It's not clock management issue.
He didn't play
And
perfect.
that's the coach.
He didn't
He gave
play
the Raiders-
perfect.
Sam
He
Darnold-
turned over the ball.
Sam Darnold. All right. Let me say something about Sam Darnold.
Oh,
because
please.
I've been talking
I
out
can't
my ass
stop
as a
you,
Jets
but
fan.
keep going.
Would you like me to be realistic about Sam Darnold?
Yes. Yes.
I don't think it's possible.
If whether it's on the Jets or on another team, if he has a coach that is better than what he has had in New York, he can be a decent quarterback.
He could be an average quarterback. At his
Average.
full potential. I'll say it. At his full, if we're being real, at his full potential, he could be a mediocre quarterback.
At his full potential, I think he can be what Mark Sanchez was when he was like okay with the Jets.
I would call that a mediocre quarterback.
I went on my little rampage because I'm hopeful. But if you want me to be like if you want to talk about Sam Darnold for like 2 minutes here, like to be completely serious, I got excited, but the Jets are probably going to take Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, depending on one or two, but probably one.
All right, I'll be honest with you too,
For
Mike.
Sam
I don't
Darnold-
think you guys should take Trevor Lawrence.
I don't think we should either.
I don't think you
I don't
should
think
give
you
up
should
on
either.
Darnold until you get someone besides Gaze in there. Because I think Darnold can at least
But-
win you can give you a 500 season every now and then, like
I'll tell
Andy
you this.
Dalton. He could be like Andy Dalton at his peak. That's what I see.
am a
That is
Sam
Sam Darnold's ceiling to me. Is like Andy Dalton. Oh, we're gonna
Sean,
win.
just because
Couple
they
games, make
look the
playoffs
same
sometimes.
doesn't mean that they have the same QBR.
Listen, I am a Sam Darnold
This
fan.
is Billy. This is like the absolute ceiling. I think he'll never hit it. Like I don't think he'll ever hit
Okay,
that. But I think
hear
there's
me out, hear me out,
a
'cause
small
this is me-
chance.
He'll never get the
serious
Andy
now.
Dalton
This is me
commercial
serious
deal.
now. As a Sam Darnold fan, I know I just went on my rampage as a Jets fan that's hopeful. In complete serious, I would love to see him go to Pittsburgh and take over after Ben Roethlisberger retires. I honestly think that would be a really good fit for him because that's a good team and a good coach.
What?
If he were to be anywhere that is not the Jets, I think he would perform well in Pittsburgh.
I mean, I guess it's not the hottest take.
It's not the hot. I mean, look, they have a great young receiving core: Chase Claypool, Juju Smith. They have James
TikTok
Conner,
stars,
who's a
you
young
mean?
running back. They have the TikTok stars. They have a great young defense, starred and headlined by Minkah Fitzpatrick. They still have Joe Hayden. I do think Mike Tomlin will stay their coach after Roethlisberger retires. That could be a situation where Sam Darnold could get traded to, however that works out. And again, not be great, but be good enough because the rest of the roster around him is so talented. Like,
So-
look at Big Ben.
But does that qualify him as a? Well, hold on. Let's not.
Do not. I don't like Big
I gotta
Ben,
cut
but
you
do
off before
not
you
say
this,
Big
but
Ben's a
don't
mediocre
ever
quarterback.
quantify them as the same
I'm
kind
not.
of quarterback.
I'm not. But what I'm saying is they're taking a guy who's older, not as mobile as he used to be, and they're making I don't think Big Ben's bad. I think he's above average, but I do think he looks better than he actually is because of the team around him and the coaching staff around him.
Fair enough.
And I think all right, I'll say it this way: whether it's Sam Darnold or whether it's a Sam Darnold-esque player like a Josh Rosen or another young quarterback that maybe hasn't gotten the chance they deserve, I do think a good young quarterback can go there and outperform the way they've played. Like I do think they're, and maybe it's not Sam Darnold, but I do think there are young quarterbacks around. Gardner Minshew, maybe Taysom Hill, like they're a guy. I don't know why I said Taysom Hill.
I would go Jameis Winston first, but
that was why I meant to say. I don't know why I said Taysom Hill, but there are guys like that haven't gotten a fair shake that I think Pittsburgh is a fantastic situation to go into.
No, I agree, but I
Pittsburgh
also
could trade up too.
I will say this on behalf of Sam Darnold. I do think that if he was in a different situation, he would be a better quarterback than what he is right now. That's not saying a lot because it's a pretty low bar, but
that's the bar at the lowest right for me.
That if he was in a different situation, he would be a lot better off. But unfortunately, he doesn't have the Patrick Mahomes situation. He didn't walk into a team that had established good coaching, that didn't have someone who we knew we could trust. So unfortunately, this is what he had to work with. But in the event that he ever left and went to another team, I could see him being a playoff quarterback.
Let's leave it at that.
And you know what?
Let's leave it at that.
And if
I'm okay with
if Faz got me a Sam Darnold Jets jersey, I'd probably wear it once in a while. But only if Faz got me it.
Why do you have to end it like that? Why do you have to end it like that, Billy?
You know why he has to end it like that?
When I said finish it, that would have been perfect.
Fishing for Christmas gifts. He's fishing for Christmas gifts.
That's right, I am, dog.
You don't want a Sam Darnold jersey.
He also has respect for...
I think it'd be funny.
He has respect. He's an Aaron Rodgers fan. He has respect for good quality NFL quarterbacks. And that's it. Finished. That's it. That's it. It's finished.
There's no
Thank
reason.
you all for tuning in to Go Talk tonight.
You don't have control here. We're not in the studio. I have everything in front of my monitor. So I can mute you if I want to. Unless you have a fireplace, there is no reason for anyone to get a Sam Darnold jersey or a New York Jets jersey, because what it will be...
I actually do have a New York Jets jersey, and I will go
Firewood.
get it.
I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking right to the camera right now. I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to everybody. Everybody's going to watch this.
It's like 8.
I'm going to say it again. There is no reason to buy a Sam Darnold or New York Jets jersey unless you want to put it in your fireplace for firewood. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Go Talk. I'd like to say one last thing. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Mike, for being here. I'm not going to let you talk any more about the Jets or Sam Darnold. It all comes down to that Sam Darnold just doesn't look good in shorts. So,
That's right. Daniel Jones does.
Daniel Jones looks better in shorts.
Hold on. Don't end the show yet. Don't end the show.
Okay, you have 10 seconds.
Really?
No, I'm counting for no reason.
You're going to tell me that this doesn't look good in shorts.
I think you just messed up the crop.
Absolutely not. We're ending the show there. I'd like to wish everybody a safe weekend and hope everyone does go to the finals. And just to take away from this, don't buy Jets jersey. Sam Darnold looks bad in shorts, and Daniel Jones is going to be a better quarterback.